Hello, everybody. My name is Jon Breithaupt, and today I'm going to be talking to you all about the northern hardwood forests of North America for this final presentation. So, when you look at where northern hardwoods are found, in particular in the United States, it's really on the northernmost portion of this map. You can see in the Great Lakes states of northern Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Michigan that you find northern hardwoods with red pine. When you look towards New England, predominantly northern Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, as well as parts of western Massachusetts, you find northern hardwoods with hemlock. Both types of northern hardwoods forest are found in southern Ontario as well. And when you look at the predominant species dominating this forest community, typically you'll find sugar maple, American beech, basswood, red maple, eastern hemlock, and yellow birch. You'll also find red spruce as well as jack, red, and white pine intermixed within these forests as well, depending on microclimates shaped by the Great Lakes, different soil characteristics, elevation, and topography. You may have also heard northern hardwoods referred to as northeastern mixed forest. They're often called this in the northern Appalachian region. They're very much a transitional forest, meaning you find mostly hardwoods, predominantly oak and hickory forest communities to the southern part of the northern hardwoods range, and to the north you'll often find boreal forests, which are found in parts of Michigan, Wisconsin, New York, as well as Minnesota, and certainly into the reaches of Canada. And you'll find most of this forest community is present at higher elevations in Appalachian Mountains when found outside of kind of that 45th parallel region, reaching a little bit north and a little bit south. This type of forest community is very dependent on nutrient-rich soils and grows in semi-wet regions. Again, these are some of the species you'll find predominantly in the overstory. The beech maple climax forests are found in a variety of different regions. Eastern hemlock, yellow birch, basswood, white ash, red spruce, and black cherry make up the canopy of this forest community principally. Here's a look at an understory that you'll often see in a typical northern hardwoods forest. These are mostly small trees and shrubs that you'll find. A couple species of dogwood, hobblebush, striped maple, which is a typically younger, shorter-lived species of maple, red-berried elder, maple-leaved viburnum, as well as younger age classes of a variety of the overstory species that are shade tolerant that we talked about. Beech is very common to find. It's very shade tolerant, and some sugar maple is less tolerant, but that's often something you'll see in the understory of northern hardwoods. This forest community is home to a diverse array of animals. I think this graphic here on the right really does a good job at showing almost all of the key mammals that you'll find here. When young forest is found, you'll find a variety of soft mast as well as cover for animals, and then certain species prefer the more traditional mature woods. To the north, you'll find species of moose. You'll find more commonly Canadian lynx and gray fox. When you look towards the south, you're going to find widespread white-tailed deer populations, bobcat, a variety of squirrel species. Fisher and mink are two unique mammals that are often unseen by humans but present in the large tracts of quite protected areas of northern hardwoods. And again, you can see a variety of species of bats and beaver in aquatic environments. Porcupine and northern raccoon are very widespread in this ecosystem as well. Certainly a variety of different birds and amphibians as well. You can take a look here, different frog and salamander species, uh, lots of different owl species, barred, great gray, great horned, saw-whet as well. Bald eagles, which are certainly an indicator of a healthy ecosystem. Osprey, where there's areas available for them to fish. There's many different lakes and rivers in the areas that the northern hardwoods occupy, and many other birds of prey call northern hardwoods home, in particular in the edges between mature and younger forests or open areas and the edge along northern hardwood forests. The fire regime here is predominantly Group 5. You can see in northern New England and the northern lake states the red. That is fire regime Group 5. And it's one of the least exciting of the 5 principal fire regimes because you have temperate climate, you have moist soil conditions. Fire is just not that common here. Models show less than 1% of forests are replaced annually by fire. Often after widespread unsustainable logging or major wind events, you'll find fire. And rotations are typically 1,000 years or more, so that's very uncommon. A lot of that has to do with, again, the soil conditions, the way in which the forests are managed, in terms of harvesting practices, which have greatly improved over the years. Much of the northern hardwoods were heavily logged in the late 1800s into the early 1900s. From 1870 until about 1900, Michigan was the largest producer of timber in the United States of America. And the philosophy, as many of you know then, was cut out and get out. Reap as much benefit as you could from the white pine and some of the other hardwoods in this forest community and get out. And when loggers did that historically, it left areas very susceptible to great fires, and we saw many of those in places like Detroit, Milwaukee, Chicago in the late 1800s and into the early 1900s as well. I thought this was just kind of an interesting graphic to add here. This is a highlight of structures lost from wildfires from 1999 until 2011. You can see very few, almost none in New England, and only a handful in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. And I think that just kind of goes to show, when fires burn here, they're typically short-lived. They often don't spread significantly, and they're quelled by various suppression entities quickly. Also noteworthy, there are homes in the wildland-urban interface where northern hardwoods thrives, but for the most part, these wildlands don't have a very significant interface with homes. There's not very many major communities population-wise in the northern parts of this part of America. Sort of the larger major municipal areas are to the southern parts of the states in which northern hardwoods are found, and so because of that, you don't have some of the crazy fire epidemics we see in places outside of Denver or outside of Los Angeles and the like. Certainly, climate change can have a significant impact. Years with higher temperatures and longer droughts seem to correlate with an increase in fire activity here. Certain species are tolerant of fire. Spruces and pines found here are generally able to withstand burning. Jack pine has highly serotinous cones and is actually dependent on fire for reproduction. Most of the jack pine forests are found a little bit south of the northern hardwoods, but jack pine is found intermixed within the northern hardwood forests. And then other species are able to resprout vigorously after fire activity has occurred, such as eastern hemlock, a variety of maple species, and American beech. So it's very uncommon to find northern hardwoods forests that are 100% intact from what they might have looked like pre-European settlement. Recently, I was able to visit a tract owned by the state of Michigan in southwestern Michigan called Warren Woods State Park. And this is basically the only tract of old growth northern hardwoods forest in the lower peninsula of Michigan. Many of the stands are now second growth, and there's a lot of even age forests that need management because of the history of our our logging philosophies of the late 1800s and early 1900s. Um, Restoration is really a priority in a number of these stands. Managing for a variety of age classes is certainly important. So, wildlife and recreational values and things like that can be enhanced. Fragmentation of the forest communities is certainly happening with not only state and national forest roads, but county roads and major state highways that are creating this mosaic of stands found in the northeastern United States. Fire exclusion was certainly a big practice in this part of America and New England and the upper Midwest. Um, Fire is, it can potentially be an issue nowadays because we have many stands that have not seen fire for a long time due to aggressive suppression activities. And because of that, you'll see lots of prescribed fire activity happening, certainly in the Midwest, in my home state of Michigan. A lot of that happens in the southern reaches of this forest community near openings for places that have oak savannas or oak prairies adjacent to northern hardwoods. This is common, but just to restore vigor in some of the endemic species found in northern hardwoods, it's certainly a practice used by both public and nonprofit entities, and increasingly we're seeing private sector folks who are supporting prescribed burn efforts on public lands as well. Another current issue, there's a number of invasive species that are threatening the biological integrity and the ecological integrity of northern hardwoods forests. Emerald ash borer is one of the most significant ones. You can see here on this graphic the light blue line, kind of the Midwest, and then along the eastern seaboard is the federal emerald ash borer quarantine boundary. My home state of Michigan has lost almost all of its mature ash in the lower peninsula due to this invasive beetle. It bores into the wood of ash trees, and its young hatch there and then eat their way out, which kills the tree. We're seeing this species spread west to other forest communities which have ash as well. And ash is not a dominant species in this ecosystem, but it's certainly found there and a major threat. Couple different types of honeysuckle as well as buckthorn are those are all woody shrubs that invade the understory and outcompete native understory vegetation and can severely disrupt and almost eliminate native species. I've seen that recently in central Michigan. Uh, I think that species in particular that I saw was Morrow's honeysuckle, and it came in and eliminated all of the understory in a matter of about 10 to 15 years. And there are still mature native trees in the overstory, but quickly, once they die, they're going to be replaced by an invasive species in the understory, which outcompetes native vegetation and is a significant problem. So, in summary, northern hardwoods are found in a variety of states in the upper Midwest and northern New England region. Fire really does not have a huge role in the ecosystem, but it is a factor nonetheless moving forward. Variety of invasive species and poorly thought out logging practices have really precipitated a need for forest restoration, and that's a lot of what we see today. And I think it's interesting to note that climate change will certainly alter the space in which this forest community can grow. It's likely that moving forward we'll see it found more and more north than we have before. And I just think that's something interesting. And yeah, thank you very much for listening. Here are some of the references for my written content, these 5 here. And then I have several pages for the photographs and other graphs that I utilized in this presentation. Thank you.